I'm Greg Kubiak, he, him, his. I graduated from OU in 1983, just retired a couple years ago as a chief public affairs officer for a consortium of research universities in Washington, D.C.
My name is Sharon Bishop Baldwin. She, her, and hers are my pronouns. I am the class of 1992 at the University of Oklahoma, and I'm now the sole reporter for the weekly Sand Springs Leader newspaper in Sand Springs, a suburb of Tulsa, and I work in conjunction with the Tulsa World daily newspaper as well. My wife, Mary Bishop Baldwin, and I were the lead plaintiffs in the 10-year lawsuit that brought marriage equality to Oklahoma.
My name is Corey Chancellor. I graduated from OU in the class of 2012. My pronouns are he, him, and right now I live in Madrid, Spain. I have an art school here.
Hi, I'm Z Tenney. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am an OU alum from the class of 2013 in history and religious studies, and then again in 2016 with a master's in public administration and adult and higher education. And these days I'm living in Columbus, Ohio, where I work at The Ohio State University as the Chief Diversity Officer for the College of Pharmacy there.
Hi there, my name is Josiane Girardi. I'm a graduate of the University of Oklahoma class of 2013 with a degree in letters. I live in San Francisco, California, and I serve as the Associate Director for Leadership Giving at the Human Rights Campaign. And I'm a founder of the OU's LGBTQ Alumni Society.
My name is Jackie Bradshaw. My pronouns are she, hers. I am from the class of 2017. My current profession is I am a team leader for service release engineering at General Motors.
Hi there, my name's AC. Pronouns are they, them, and I am part of the OU class of 2020. I'm tuning in from Oakland, California, where I work with Clorox as a product and process developer. I'm part of this project. Part of my history at OU was founding the first Oklahoma chapter of OSTEM, which is out in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Hi, my name's Justin Norris. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I graduated from OU in 2021, and now I'm currently a second-year law student at Columbia Law School here in New York City, and I had the distinct honor and privilege of being elected as the first non-binary homecoming royalty at the University of Oklahoma.
Our alums made great strides towards progress for LGBTQ+ students at OU, and in their own ways, they have made a huge impact on the experiences of future generations of students at OU.
Yeah, well, I didn't come out until I was 25, so it was much later than when I was a student. I was struggling with my own sexuality, I suppose, and but obviously was very aware of the very homophobic climate politically in Oklahoma at that time. Probably the most impactful thing that I recall was a legal struggle at the time with the Gay Activist Alliance at OU, which could not gain recognition from the university as an official student organization. And my small footnote in that struggle was my year as student president was the first year that the Gay Activist Alliance actually got funded as a student organization. So it was a very a very different and interesting time.
So my first year at OU, I really wasn't out as a lesbian, but my second year I was. And one of the first things I did that fall semester was I went to the GLBA meeting. And I really can't even remember much about the speaker that night because mostly I just stared around the room at these other people thinking, wow, I'm really not the only one. And there are all these people here and they have different majors and different interests and all of that, but we have this commonality. And it really created a sense of community for me and made me feel not so isolated. One night after the meeting broke up, we decided we were going to go over to the lower deck, which was this bar off campus, and have some beer. it was, since it was ladies' night, the beer was cheap, and that seemed like a good idea. Well, the bar owner made it pretty clear that, in fact, she said we were not the type of ladies she was trying to attract. It was just a very homophobic experience and everything. But what came from that was we started staging protests, and we marched out in front of the lower deck, and we sang. And I just remember one night we were just walking around in a circle and singing "We Shall Overcome." And Peggy Johnson, who at the time was a very well-known local LGBTQ activist, she was our song leader. And she and Pat Reeves, another older than me lesbian, were kind of leading us. And I just remember feeling like they were setting such a great example for those of us who were younger. And I don't even necessarily mean younger in age, but younger in our newness to being open about our sexuality. And I think all LGBTQ people look at people like Harvey Milk and Edie Windsor and people like that. And of course, we're standing on their shoulders, but we're also standing on the shoulders of people whose names we might not know so readily, like Peggy Johnson and Pat Reeves. And I think that sparked the seed in me to be someone with strong shoulders who could support other people in the future.
Whenever I first came, I went to the Camp Crimson, which is like the freshman orientation camp. And that experience was really, really helpful for me in order to meet other people, to make connections really quickly and really easily, so that whenever I did move into the dorms, I had a set of friends that I knew from camp, which was really great. I was really fortunate for that because I wasn't really sure how to make friends or who I was going to meet or how I was going to fit in. But that kind of got erased during that camp because I got to meet a lot of cool people who accepted me for who I was and who I am. And I felt really comfortable. I was excited to go to school. So I definitely owe a big part of that to the Camp Crimson because I made a small little community before school even started. So that was really great.
The climate for LGBTQ students on campus when I first started in 2009, when I came in as a freshman, was certainly getting better. And I could tell that it was. There were a lot of older queer students that I befriended my freshman year who kind of talked about how things had changed. But there were still clearly some pretty big challenges. The Greek system was still not the most welcoming. There were a few openly gay members of fraternities and sororities that I met over the time of my first couple of years, but still not a lot. And I certainly know that there were still issues with students getting harassed on campus. But by the time that I graduated, I would say that a lot of that had really dissipated. And students felt a lot more comfortable being who they were. And certainly I think that the Gender and Equality Center, which was then called the Women's Outreach Center, had also contributed a lot in kind of reshaping the culture of the campus, especially with like a lot of their LGBTQ plus programming.
When I was a student, the climate was bad enough that students really took some very strong, tangible action. But at the same time, it was so normalized that it took years for many of us to realize that it was unacceptable. That was certainly my experience, at least. And so that is actually really what motivated us, is how poor the environment was and how pervasive that terrible environment was to finally gather together and form an organization to try to make some change.
Despite the challenges and hostile climate that LGBTQ plus students face, many people still find pockets of queer joy on campus.
The group that it probably would have been me if LGBTQ programs existed when I was a much younger student. I see you, but I don't know if I want to walk over there. Your heart is racing, you're sweating, you're looking around, who can see me? Someone from high school that I went to high school with, or whatever. And if I go up there, everyone's gonna it's gonna be this huge spotlight on me that says queer right above my head. And so you've got those individuals who want to engage but are afraid to engage. And so the role of the advisory board is so imperative because you are, in a lot of ways, you're the person that they want to be. They want to be that open and out person where they can identify and exist in an institution and in a state that's not very welcoming.
One of my favorite moments in OU's LGBTQ plus history was getting to host Troy Stevenson and Sam Britton at an event for our OSTEM chapter. At that talk, they shared kind of their experience as a non-binary person in their field, and they ended their amazing presentation with they sang a song to us, and it was just a really magical, like, affirming, sweet moment. So I highly recommend getting in touch, getting to know with both Troy and Sam.
I had just finished my presidency in my Panhellenic sorority, and I recognized that the barriers that I was putting up for myself didn't need to be there anymore. So when the Innovation Hub sent out their stuff for a TED Talk, I said, I have these cross sections of my life. So I actually submitted 2 topics. One of them was about being a woman in STEM, and then the other topic was about being a lesbian in a sorority. And I they accepted both, but they needed me to pitch one of them. And after consulting with a lot of my friends, they said, well, there's a lot of stuff for women in STEM, but there really isn't anything out there for being a queer person in Greek life. And I thought, okay, well, that's clear enough. That is my opportunity.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm a proud member of the Greek community. I'm a former sorority president, and I am a lesbian.
And I felt so honored and privileged to be able to tell my story about what it was like being in the closet, feeling like I was the only person in the planet that had these 2 intersections, which was just silly because after my TED Talk got published on YouTube and there was an article that was written about it, I had a flood of people reaching out to me saying, thank you so much. That was my story. Here is my story. You gave me the confidence to come out. I feel like I'm not alone. And it was just all of these strangers from across the country that were just reaching out to me. They found my social media accounts and said, just excited that they weren't alone and that I wasn't alone. And it was just a really powerful story that I was able to share in a very public way.
I think my favorite memory at OU was my first time performing in Crimson and Queens. Like, I think that was just like the highlight of my freshman year, considering that I applied on a whim and didn't even think that I was gonna like get picked to be one of the student performers. And then I, was doing the whole thing, and that's when my like drag persona Black Cherry was born and all these things. And it was just so fun to see so many people come together and like celebrate that, and to watch it grow from there was awesome. But like that was definitely something that I still talk about all the time. It's like new people that I meet whenever I talk about going to OU.
I think 2 of my favorite experiences at OU in terms of LGBT programs are Queer Tours and Proudly Gleaming. I didn't go to Queer Tours as a freshman, but I've been privileged enough to be a part of it as an upperclassman. And it's just one of the most rewarding experiences I've had with OU's LGBTQ community, because it's just meeting these freshmen that were in my shoes, like when I was also a freshman, and seeing them have a more positive introduction to OU's campus than I did really makes me feel good about the direction that campus is going in. And getting to talk to them about them being able to express themselves for the first time with a community that they can tell cares about them means a lot. And having them, know that spaces exist for them is very, very important to me. And in terms of like really, really fun events, Proudly Gleaming has to be one of my favorites. It's homecoming, but make it gay. And I love that we get to have this because I am from the South. Homecoming is a massive deal, and it's a space that traditionally LGBTQ students don't have the ability to experience the way like cishet students would. Most schools would not support you bringing a same-gendered partner to prom. Most of them wouldn't support you wearing clothes that might not align with your assigned at birth sex. And so finally being able to have that experience on a college campus where you know you are safe, where you know you're supported, is just incredible. And I absolutely love seeing it and being a part of that event. So those, I think, are my top favorite events that I've been at and with at OU.
I got a really good mentor during the mentorship program, and they helped me make sure I was settling in. They were probably the reason why my fall semester went so great.
So I actually went to my first Crimson and Queens last semester. So it was nice to actually be the field house and seeing someone that I started OU with being one of our MCs. So it was nice to see Nikita there. And it was also nice to see a wide range of people that like I wasn't expecting to be at Crimson and Queens. So I feel like it was one of the events that's big, but also allows different groups on campus to come together and experience a night of like fun.
Yeah, Crimson Queens is obviously like the biggest drag event on campus, but drag bingo during the first week of like welcome to campus freshman activities was really cool for me as an incoming freshman, just because that's not the kind of thing that was happening at my high school, you know? And so just being able to welcome freshmen in with an activity like that was really cool.
My favorite memory and recurring experience with the university really is during OU Texas. The LGBTQ Alumni Society, we have a partnership with the Texas Exis LGBTQ Alumni Club, and we host a joint happy hour the Friday of every OU Texas. Outside of the game itself, it's the only joint event between the universities, and I love it because like all of our LGBTQ queer alumni like come together and like, you know, we have a couple drinks, and it's a very proud environment where people feel really validated and seen for their experiences. And for a lot of alumni from both, you know, Texas and OU, these are a lot of alumni who weren't out in undergrad, and this is the first opportunity for them to really be in a affirming space for who they are, which is something that was in a lot of ways robbed from them when they were younger.
In many ways, we are living the dreams our alum have dreamed up for us. For some, our reality wasn't even a possibility for them to imagine.
Can't believe it. Like, and I used to be a small group leader also for Camp Crimson. So to see how that has changed, because I did that for the 3 years after attending the following 3 years. If we could have had a drag show, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. Like, this is music to my ears. This is wonderful. Okay. Yeah. I'm so happy to hear this.
And so my dream really was, you know, what could OU be for everyone that it claims to be for folks, but that only certain folks get to access that. And actually to know that there is an LGBTQ centered program at homecoming is incredible. That's something that I would not have dreamed of because it wouldn't have seemed super realistic to me. But I think that's phenomenal because homecoming is a big deal. But when I was there, it was pretty much only the Greek organizations that did anything for it or that felt included or involved.
To our alums, we want to say thank you for your sacrifice and activism. Here are some messages from current OU students.
I think thank you is the only thing that I would be able to say to those activists before me, but it doesn't begin to contain all of the thoughts and all of the appreciation that I have for them. To the alumni, I just want to say thank you for all the effort that you put through so that we can be here. You have impacted so many people. I'm just so grateful that you were there to do that for everyone, for the upcoming communities, for like the people who didn't even know they needed help, because now they have a place where they can find out who they are, and they have some people who can support them if needed, and you did that for us, so thank you so much.
I would say thank you, because if you all didn't fight that struggle then, we would be fighting it now, and I honestly don't know how y'all did it, because y'all handle it better than I could. So it's nice just being able to continue on like the legacy and like passing on that torch that they started way back then. It's sad that we're still fighting for some things, but we've gotten more than we've been denied recently.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. I know that maybe in the moment it may have seemed like something little, or it may have seemed like things were never going to change, but you really were part of something bigger that that has helped people on campus be themselves, openly be themselves. And there's just such a power in that I hope you've been able to see, come visit campus and come see the fruit of your labor back in the day. I'd also like to say that I think there's still a lot more work to do. I think there's lots of student leaders on campus that are still working very hard to make things even better for queer students here. And the fight isn't over, but we appreciate you.
We are here because our alums envisioned a better future for all of us. It is our duty to continue dreaming, to imagine a utopia for all LGBTQ+ students on campus.
Overall, my dream was that OU could be a place where people grew into themselves, not only through struggle, which was my experience, that I became who I am at OU, and I will be forever thankful for that. And a huge part of that experience was through surviving homophobia and transphobia. And it made me a stronger person in a lot of ways. It also made me a little traumatized. And so I would love for students to be able to go to OU and access all the amazing things that faculty and staff have for students there in terms of learning and extracurriculars, and be able to grow into themselves without it being that struggle, and instead being a loving environment where we're safe to explore who we are, rather than battling our fears about how we might be treated and deciding whether it's worth it to be ourselves.
My wish for anyone that comes to the campus, specifically LGBTQ, is that they have a place to feel safe and accepted. That's one of the, I think, most basic rights that we all have. But find a friend, find a mentor, find someone that makes them feel accepted and allows them to be their authentic self without having to maybe walk a different way, make their voice sound deeper, dress a different way. They should be able to do whatever they want to do. And that's my goal and my wish for people moving forward at OU.
I think that even with how far we've come, we've got a long ways to go as far as LGBTQ+ acceptance on campus, that there are still students, staff, faculty, even with outdated views on it. And so I hope that the work that I'm doing now as a student leader in LGBTQ programs on campus is kind of paving the way for future student leaders too, and for a more accepting campus altogether.
Well, I really had hoped that that the university would continue to make progress and be very open-minded to different kinds of students, whether they were international students, students of color, and certainly gay students. It was, as I say, it was not a particularly welcoming environment then. We strangely have too many echoes of that even today. But it was, it was aspirational to think that a university is a place where people can get their eyes open to different ways of thinking, different cultures, different ideas, and that's what universities should be.
So one dream I have for kind of future LGBTQ+ generations at OU, I just want everyone to always keep in mind that this is not their defining space. They don't have to have everything totally correct or be the expert or be the expert educator at everything in this space. Your energy is so important, your time is so important, and your first priority is taking care of yourself and getting to know you. The rest will come later.
I would say that my hope for future LGBTQ students is to, first of all, I hope that everyone just enjoys their time at OU. because I think that first and foremost, you're there to like get a good education and like have a good time and make great memories. And I think that that is slowly becoming easier for queer students to do. So that's my first hope, but also that they, continue to pay it forward and keep it going. Like there's just so much work that gets done at every level, whether that be just like being really involved in the Gender Inequality Center or just, in your own spaces as a student, you are, present as a queer person, or just making sure that you are presenting an air of like standing up for LGBTQ plus activism, just continuing to make the university more accessible and more navigable for queer students.
What I would hope for them is that they feel empowered to be their authentic self from the first day that they start OU. Life is way too short. College and undergrad is way too short, even if you have a victory lap like some people like me. That not to be your authentic self and give yourself permission to explore the different avenues of your personality and the different avenues of your identity. It's scary and it's going to take a lot of brass to do so, but it's worth it in the end.
We may not get to experience this in our time here, but just like our alums in the 70s never got to enjoy the fruit of their labor, we still must continue to work and hold OU accountable.
Another aspect of my dream for this university is OU taking stronger policy actions to support and uplift LGBTQ students and voices. Right now, just funding our programs is such an issue, and the same excuses to kind of ignore us have been around since the 60s and 70s. The exact same wordage about how it's not in the best interest of the university to commit funds to these organizations and student groups and LGBT spaces is still, something that is floated today as an excuse to not fund programs for the betterment of the LGBT community on campus. And I believe that for OU to truly be supportive of our community, they need to take stronger policy stances, stronger financial stances in supporting us, because we are still students. We have been around. We're not new and we're not going away. Every year, our student population, our LGBT students grow. And every year we see more and more freshmen that are comfortable existing in these spaces and want more from the university. So I think creating and implementing policies that support and uplift the LGBT community are really, really important. It's something I hope to see in OU's future. And saying all this, I say it because I love it. I criticize OU because I want it to be better, because it is an institution that I'm truly passionate about being at. It's somewhere I'm very, very proud to in the future have my degree from, and it's a community that I want to better as a whole, and I think this is a way we can do that. So I criticize OU out of a place of love, but I really, really would like to see the institution take more positive and affirming stances towards LGBT students and spaces.
To the current and future generations of LGBTQ plus OU students, remember that we're the descendants of great generations of activists. We inherit the legacy of activism as a reminder to continue to fight, to do better, to be better.
We got married on the steps of the Tulsa County Courthouse, where we had previously been denied a marriage license. That happened at OU. OU is where that started. That lower deck experience, that finding my courage and finding that I was not, some different type of person, that I am a normal person. All of that stemmed from that. That activism stemmed from there. So when you talk about 50 years ago, they had to fight just for breakfast. And I know that in 1992, we took actions that ultimately led to a bar being shut down for its homophobia. And I know that then, 13 years after that, someone who gained that courage at OU was part of the filing of a lawsuit for marriage equality. That 10 years after that resulted in marriage equality in Oklahoma, 9 months before the rest of the country got it. Who would ever think that about Oklahoma? You have to know this is not a conversation that you're having in Maine or California or Vermont. This is Oklahoma where we're talking about having done this.
This is what LGBTQ plus History Month is about. A reminder from the past so together we can move forward. Let our colors be proudly gleaming, and our dreams will never die. This is Rainbow 'Neath the Western Sky and Live On University.